Caleb the Courageous by Henry Herz. Caleb's hind claws clicked as he briskly strode upright against the narrow cobblestone streets of Bengalton. After a year of courtship, tonight's the big night, he thought, his whiskery chin held high and forelimbs clasped behind his back. He smiled, sneaking a peek at Cordelia walking beside him. The petite puss wore a lavender-colored dress that flattered her figure. A matching feathered hat accentuated her pale nose fuzz and delicate ears. I hope she doesn't notice my worn jacket elbows or faded waistcoat, he thought, though this is my best suit. They arrived at the tavern and were promptly seated at the prime window table for two, Caleb having made the proper arrangements the day prior. He helped Cordelia take her seat. By tightening his belt this past month, he had saved enough to splurge on a modest bottle of red wine. After a polite but superficial dinner conversation, Caleb took Cordelia's paw.
My dear Cordelia, you would make me the happiest tomcat in Bengalton if you would do me the honor of becoming my wife.
Cordelia sat up straighter and raised her eyebrows. Is she waiting for something else?
My dear Caleb, you are kind, clever, hardworking, and a handsome cat, but...
Damn. Caleb's stomach nodded. Cordelia pursed her lips.
A lady must have a husband who can provide for her and her kittens. Where's the proposal ring?
She glanced at Caleb's plaid waistcoat.
And I did not fail to note the sorry state of your wardrobe.
Cordelia pushed away her dessert plate, which showed little evidence that it once held cake.
I do have feelings for you, Caleb. Please don't consider this a refusal, but rather an exhortation to better your station before asking again.
Suffice to say, the walk home was devoid of conversation, and that Caleb's roiling emotions kept his night devoid of sleep. Caleb dutifully reported bleary-eyed for work at the weapon factory the following day. Unlike their Wolfen enemies, the catfolk had not yet mastered gunpowder. Only their superior numbers kept them at rough parity with the militaristic and better-armed Wolfen pirates. Caleb's innovative mind and clever paws had yielded several enhancements to weapon designs over the last year. But today, his normally nimble digits lacked their customary skill.
If I am to win Cordelia's paw, how will I earn enough for a proposal ring?
The cuff of a newly assembled engine from a reverse-engineered steam ski, captured during a Wolfen raid last autumn, loudly interrupted Caleb's reverie. Fortune favored the felines in that the only known source of firestone was their mine at the port of Angoraville, a day's sail across the Saltfish Sea. Firestone generated steam far more efficiently than burning coal, resulting in greater propulsive power. The catfolk fortified their harbor facilities at Angoraville as sturdily as they did their port at Bengalton. A host of skilled stonemasons and laborers built mighty seawalls impregnable to Wolfen attack. Bengalton depended upon Angoraville for its firestone, but the miners depended on Bengalton to provide ongoing supplies of food. Eschewing fruitless attacks against high-walled strongholds, Wolfen corsairs focused their predations on convoys crossing across the Saltfish Sea. The Wolfen had intercepted the two most recent convoys, depleting Bengalton's firestone stocks to perilously low levels.
"Can I have your attention?"
called the factory foreman.
"Everyone stop working for a moment."
Workers put down their tools, wiped their sweaty brows, and gathered round in the now eerily silent factory. The gray-haired foreman frowned and put his front paws on his hips.
"As you know, our last convoy got chewed up pretty badly. We need more volunteers to crew a cargo steamship and its escort. Given our dwindling supply of firestone, the mayor is offering a hazard pay of 20 silver claws for participants in a successful round-trip convoy. That's 20 to get a load of food to Angoraville and a load of firestone back. Anyone interested? Come see me now."
Tails dropped. A few brave Bengals followed the foreman as he strode back to his office. Caleb stood stone still.
I'm a pretty handy shot with a bow, but I'm no soldier. Still, 20 silver claws would buy Cordelia a lovely ring.
Caleb returned to his cluttered workbench. By the end of the day, he'd fashioned only a single longbow. But he had reached the decision. After 2 days of hasty training for the new recruits, The massive front gates of Bengalton harbor walls lumbered open to disgorge a 100-foot-long cargo-carrying steamship, escorted by half a dozen steam skis with lance arms drivers and an archer in each sidecar. Hauling a heavy load of food crates, the highly automated steamship needed a crew of only 2, a driver and a navigator. 2 weapon platforms menaced from atop the ship's cargo bay. 2 soldiers on the fore platform serviced the steam-powered harpoon launcher. 2 soldiers on the aft platform crewed a flamethrower. Armor plating protected the engine compartment and bridge. Long steel spikes bristled from the bow and gunwales. The ship towed a spare steam ski. The sour smell of burning firestone filled Caleb's nostrils. Goggles kept the breeze and salty spray out of his eyes, but his wind-whipped ears and the whine of steam skis made it hard to hear his driver. What have I gotten myself into? Once the convoy cleared the harbor gates, the steam skis assumed a standard escort formation. A wedge of 3 in front of the steamship, 1 on either flank, and 1 to the rear. They scouted ahead to provide early warning of a Wolfen attack and would use their superb mobility and high rate of fire to harass raiders attempting to engage the steamship. After 2 hours of high-speed eastward transit, Caleb became acutely aware of his sore and soggy bottom. Curse this miserable combination of noise, vibration, and seawater. Although he didn't think it was possible, Caleb's discomfort increased further when the archer in another steam ski raised a red signal flag.
Wolfen Corsairs!
The message repeated, followed by the driver pointing his lance.
A single raider to the south-southeast!
His mouth suddenly dry, Caleb double-checked his safety harness and drew an arrow as his driver swerved to starboard. The 4 steam skis closest to the enemy would engage, while the other 2 remained in reserve on either side of the steamship. A Wolfen frigate hove into view, a black skull painted near the bow beneath the name Fangstorm. Under the skull blazed red-painted crossbones, signifying that the frigate had 1 kill to its credit. Caleb couldn't feel his pulse. Lacking a supply of firestone, the Wolfen designed their vehicles to use coal-fired steam power plants. Their engineers compensated for less efficient fuel by incorporating a larger engine. The Cat's steam skis could drive rings around a Wolfen frigate, but a fully laden steamship could not. The Wolfen set an intercept course with the steamship. As the 4 steam skis neared the frigate, the crack of a musket fire reached Caleb's ears. His experienced driver jinked the steam ski to make it a more difficult target for the low rate-of-fire muskets. Paralyzed with fear, Caleb took no shots as he swept along the frigate's port side. He noted 10 portholes from which the Wolfen Corsairs fired.
What are you waiting for?
Screamed his driver.
Shoot next time!
Aye, was all the response Caleb could muster.
I just have to manage to shoot through a small porthole from a moving mount against a moving target.
He braced himself for their next pass, managing to get off 3 arrows, though he couldn't tell if any found their mark. The next steam ski swarmed the frigate like bees attacking a marauding bear. But their stings were equally ineffective. The frigate drew inexorably closer to the steamship. With a clang, a harpoon fired from the steamship buried itself in the bow armor of the frigate. Exhibiting astonishing bravery, the Wolfen captain exposed herself to bow fire to assess the damage. The wind whipped her loose purple vest and black fur. She remained visible long enough to scan the steam skis, making eye contact with Caleb before ducking behind cover. Wolfen musket fire killed 1 steam ski driver and gravely wounded an archer. But once the Corsairs drew near the steamship, they ignored the steam skis and concentrated their firepower on the rear of the steamship where the engine was situated. Eventually, the raiders inflicted enough damage that the steamship began to lose speed.
It's just a matter of time now!
Screamed Caleb's driver.
We've got to save the crew!
The other steam ski drivers drew the same conclusion. They raced to the now drifting steamship on the side opposite the Wolfen frigate to take on survivors. Last to abandon ship, the driver and navigator scrambled down a ladder into the steam ski towed behind the truck, cut the rope, and followed the other steam skis back to Bengalton.
I have nothing to show for risking my hide.
Bengalton's captain of the guard met the convoy survivors in the main courtyard to hear the report.
Blast you! Angora needed that food!
The captain cursed unfairly. After being dismissed, Caleb limped home, still sore from the day of riding.
Should I tell Cordelia how the day went? Surely she'd be impressed by my actions. But to what end? I'm no closer to those 20 silver claws.
He cleaned his fur coat, then enjoyed a large, if plain dinner of brisket and buttered sourdough bread. His lumpy old mattress never felt more comfortable. He fell into a sound sleep as soon as his head hit the straw-filled pillow. Caleb returned to work the following morning. He wasn't at his workbench for long before the foreman announced another convoy to be organized.
Well, I need a silver as much as I did before.
Again he signed up. Caleb shuffled his feet.
Excuse me, sir, but I thought of something during yesterday's convoy. If we could increase the speed of the steamship, that might mean the difference between being intercepted and getting through.
The foreman raised his long ears. Go on.
Well, sir, could we reduce a steamship's weight? For example, a smaller payload? Some supplies are better than no supplies. And the flamethrower wasn't particularly effective because the Corsair's muskets outrange it. We could save weight by removing one platform and its crew.
The foreman nodded. Those are clever ideas, but they'll take some doing. Let me think on it. Thank you, Caleb. After 2 hours of the foreman conversing with the city guard captain, 2 days of steamship modifications began. During that time, Caleb sought out Cordelia.
I hope to become a good provider by serving with the convoy. There's a generous hazard pay.
Her eyes widened.
In fact, I was in the last convoy, but we couldn't stop the Wolfen from seizing the cargo, so I didn't earn the bonus.
Cordelia's mouth formed a thin line. Misinterpreting Cordelia's response, Caleb pushed down his own dread.
So I must try again with the next convoy. It leaves tomorrow.
Cordelia exhaled slowly.
Well, I hate to be a mercenary, but if the second attempt doesn't turn out better, I may have to explore other options. I'm not getting any younger.
Does she not appreciate that I'm risking my life?
Caleb turned so she wouldn't see his face flush and strode off.
Do be careful,
she called after him. The convoy assembled in the Bengalton docks. Workers rushed to finish loading the modified steamship to 3/4 capacity. The felines ventured forth. The steamship lumbered at its normal pace, keeping its newly enhanced speed a surprise for any corsairs. They sailed a different route than the previous convoy.
We are going to Angoraville, right?
Caleb asked. His steam ski driver nodded.
Of course. We're just starting off in a new direction to avoid being predictable.
Caleb's nose wrinkled.
When the enemy knows our destination, there is only so much subterfuge that can be employed.
The convoy proceeded without incident, Caleb periodically wiping spray from his goggles.
We're nearly at Angoraville.
A grin at the prospect of silver claws in his pocket vanished when the lead steam ski raised a red signal flag. Twice. 2 raiders to the north. Damn. The steamship accelerated to full speed as 4 escorts veered to port to intercept the Wolfen. Caleb's steam ski and another stayed with the cargo ship. He noted that their attackers included the same frigate as before, the Fangstorm, plus a smaller, faster steam sloop. Smooth seas gave the steam skis additional maneuverability compared to the larger Wolfen vessels. The fearless feline swooped and harried the Fangstorm, forcing it to alter its intercept course with the steamship. Caleb gazed east to the now visible guard towers of Angoraville.
Almost there. Once we get close, the harpoon launchers atop the fortress walls will keep the corsairs at bay.
He jerked his head left at an orange flash of light. Damn. The Wolfen steam sloop had a bow-mounted flamethrower, a devastating weapon against steam skis. While the 4 escorts managed to distract the larger Wolfen vehicle, they dared not approach the steam loop, which used gouts of flame to keep its path clear of Bengalton vessels.
We must stop that sloop!
Caleb shouted to his driver. His driver nodded and signaled the other escort guarding the steamship. Both steam skis raced toward the sloop. The enemy crew consisted of a driver and a gunner. Front and side armor plates shielded them from arrows. The gunner sighted his targets through narrow slits in the armor. Caleb took shots from beyond the range of the enemy flamethrower, but his arrows bounced harmlessly off armor.
His driver weaved to the port of the sloop, while the other steam ski split starboard, using maximum speed to reduce the chance of being incinerated. Caleb shouted, "I have an idea! Get directly aft of the loop!" He took his aim as his driver got them into position astern of the enemy. The other steam ski crew screamed when a torrent of flames engulfed them. Damn! As the roof gunner roared and raised a claw fist in victory, Caleb loosed an arrow. The shaft pierced the unprotected gunner between his furry shoulder blades. Before the Wolfen driver could react, Caleb put an arrow into the back of his head. The steam sloop continued forward, the slain driver's paw still on the throttle. Caleb stowed his bow in the sidecar. "Get closer."
Whatever you're going to do, be quick about it, replied the driver. The frigate is headed our way.
Caleb cursed and stood up in the sidecar. When they reached the sloop's stern, he leaped onto its rear deck. Nearly tumbling off, Caleb regained his balance and glanced up. The frigate is close. Again, the Fangstorm's captain caught his eyes. She dipped her whiskered muzzle in acknowledgement of his feat. Caleb shoved aside the dead Wolfen and took the blood-spattered steering wheel. His driver signaled the other steam skis to disengage. 3 loosed a final volley of arrows and peeled away from the frigate. The 4th remained motionless, its crew slumped over their vehicle. Caleb's steam ski pulled alongside him to ensure the other escorts and the cats on the fortress walls would not target the captured steam loop. He breathed a sigh of relief when the Fangstorm halted just outside the range of the fortress harpoon launchers. The escorts followed the steamship through the gates of Angoraville to a chorus of cheers. Caleb found himself meowing in victory. Angoraville had run low on provisions, making even the partial cargo delivery welcome beyond measure. Caleb received 10 silver claws as a bonus for the capture of the steam sloop. Accounts of his exploits, often magnified through retelling, won him guest of honor status at a celebratory banquet at which the incoming convoy crew mingled with the outgoing crew members. One in particular caught Caleb's eye, a female harpoon gunner with warm brown eyes and adorably shaped ears. As drink flowed and tongues wagged, he learned from others that the gunner, Rose, was a courageous veteran of 4 convoys. He introduced himself and soon realized that her beauty and her heart were complemented by an irreverent sense of humor. The following morning, Caleb found himself at breakfast describing to Rose and others the enhancement he suggested for Bengalton's steamship. Rose's eyes glowed as she listened to his explanations, and Caleb's heart warmed at her reaction. The mine foreman asked Caleb for recommendations for the Firestone convoy that would soon leave for Bengalton. The two explored ideas until lunchtime, after which the foreman raced off to make the arrangements. As was customary, the Bengalton survivors would recuperate at Angoraville for a week. But when one of the Angoraville crew suffered a broken leg working the mine, Caleb volunteered to take his place. The sooner I return to Bengalton, the sooner I earn my 20 silver claws and move on with my life, he thought. The Angoraville crew welcomed him, none more than Rose. 2 catfolk took a day to learn how to operate the captured steam loop. Caleb received training as a replacement harpoon loader. The lessons made all the more interesting because Rose provided the instruction. Angoraville ship designs gave preference to combat power over mobility. This steamship boasted full armor plating and 3 steam-powered harpoon launchers. The captured steam loop and 2 steam skis would compromise their escort. The Firestone convoy assembled. Friends and family offered farewell wishes. Without understanding what moved him to do so, Caleb gave Rose one of the 2 smoothbore pistols he despoiled from the dead steam loop crew. "Be careful." Rose surprised him with a hug. "Thanks, you too." With the steam loop at the head of their formation, the convoy departed Angoraville amid cheers. It took a southerly route toward Bengalton. Hours passed, though Caleb's fears did not ease with time. The fierce sun beat down on him as he crewed the steamship's harpoon launcher. He had no seat, but at least standing atop the ship involved less seeing the face than sitting in a steam ski sidecar. At the halfway point of their journey, Caleb snuck a glance at the center harpoon launcher. Rose offered him a subtle smile and nod before dutifully returning her attention to the horizon. As Caleb contemplated the pulse quickening induced by Rose, a red flag from the steamski to port flashed a warning. 3 Corsairs vehicles to the south. Damn. The harpoon launchers pivoted to port. The steam sloop and 2 steamskis swung southward, plumes of froth in their wake. With 3 attackers, no vessels could be kept in reserve. Caleb's eyes bulged.
That's the same frigate I fought before,
he told his gunner.
but what are those 2 ships?
The gunner peered through his binoculars.
One's a rammer and one's a boarder.
In response to Caleb's blank stare, he continued.
The one with the wedge-shaped front is the rammer. They'll try to collide with us and pierce our hull beyond the waterline. Taking them out will be the 4 gunners' job. The boarder vehicle, the one with the open top, will try to pull alongside us. It carries a squad of Wolfen Marines who will climb aboard. Rose and I have to prevent them from getting that close. We are no match for them in claw-to-claw combat. Now, look smart.
Caleb glanced down at the 4 metal quivers bolted to the platform, each holding 10 harpoons.
Will that be enough?
The catfolk steam sloop engaged the fangstorm, setting the port forequarter of the frigate afire. The flames would not damage the metal armor, but did suppress musket fire from that section of the vehicle. One steamski harried the Wolfen rammer as it raced to intercept the catfolk steamship. The unarmed rammer could not directly threaten the steamski crew, but its cabin armor had no difficulty deflecting catfolk arrows. The archer switched her aim to the driver's tiny visibility slit in the armor, but the rammer swerved periodically to make that a near impossible shot. In an act of breathtaking courage, the second steamski, grossly overmatched in terms of armor and firepower, dove resolutely straight at the boarder vehicle. A lump formed in Caleb's throat at the crew's valor.
They mean to disable it with a collision, killing themselves in the process.
The archer took a shot, but the distance was too great. Not so for the muskets. 10 Marines stood up from the deck of the boarder and returned fire, hitting the archer. The driver leaned lower in his seat and accelerated toward the boarder. The Marines reloaded and loosed another volley, knocking the driver off the steamski.
Damn! Why aren't you firing at the boarder?
Demanded Caleb.
They're still too distant from us, nor did I want to risk hitting our folk. Don't worry, they'll oblige us soon enough.
Whomp. Caleb spun his head as the 4 launchers shot at the rammer. The first harpoon missed high. The steamski driver, wanting to give the harpoon gunner a clearer shot, and observing that the boarder was now unopposed, turned sharply to intercept it. Whomp! The second harpoon flew true, punching through the rammer's side armor. The rammer rolled to a stop.
That shot must have killed the rammer driver.
Caleb and the other crew shouted with joy.
By the gods, what was that?
Cried Caleb.
A cannon!
What? The fangstorm had no cannon when we last met them.
Apparently, the Wolfen are just as capable of upgrading their vehicles as we are. Well, at least their aim is poor,
observed Caleb. The gunner shook his head.
They're not shooting at us. They're aiming at the steam sloop. See how our driver is staying so close to them. Clever.
I don't think the cannon can depress low enough to hit them.
Great news. Yes, for the steam sloop. Hell's bells! Exactly. Now we become the target.
The cannon boomed in agreement with the gunner. A cannonball whistled invisibly overhead. Caleb winced.
There's nothing for it. Focus on the boarder,
ordered the gunner.
We too will not be able to depress low enough to hit them once they get close. We need to stop them before that.
The boarder advanced toward the port side of the steamship. When it drew within range, the harpoon launchers responded. 2 harpoons missed, but 1 punched through the left side of the cab's front armor.
That probably killed their co-pilot,
said the gunner.
Reload!
He yelled as Caleb stood momentarily paralyzed. The boarder did not slow, even as the second catfolk steamski peppered it with arrows. The 4 harpoon platform disintegrated into shards of metal and flesh. Blood painted the steamship deck. God save us. 1 harpoon missed again, but the other hit the bed of the boarder, killing or wounding some Marines. A gush of flame drew Caleb's eye. The steam sloop braved point-blank enemy musket fire to douse the Fangstorm's foredeck in fire. The flames engulfed the cannon, but devastating return fire killed the catfolk crew. Damn! They gave their lives to stop the cannon! The gunner shout, "Reload!" snapped Caleb's attention back to the boarder vehicle. A harpoon pierced 2 Marines, knocking them off the back of the boarder. The gunner sighed.
I think we took out 6 of the Marines, but now they're too close to hit. They'll be boarding soon.
He released the harpoon launcher and snatched a harpoon to use as a spear. Crack, crack, crack. Caleb craned his neck. What's that?
The Marines are probably shooting at our steam ski.
Following the gunner's example, Caleb grasped the harpoon with quaking paws.
No amount of silver is worth this.
Grappling hooks clanged against the side of the steamship. Caleb and the gunner readied, bracing their feet and leveling their harpoons to port. The boarder vehicle drove off, having delivered its payload.
Where are the devils?
Nothing. Caleb risked a glance at Rose. 2 Wolfen Marines surged onto the middle harpoon platform and drew their cutlasses. Rose ducked under a horizon slash and thrust upward with her harpoon, taking the Wolfen in the throat. He stumbled off the platform, dragging Rose's harpoon with him. Holding his harpoon with 2 hands, Rose's loader blocked a downward cutlass chop from the other Marine. The Wolfen lunged forward, savagely tearing a chunk out of the loader's stomach with his razor-sharp fangs. The bloody-mauled Marine roared and turned toward Rose.
No!
Caleb dropped his harpoon and drew his pistol. He aimed with 2 hands. Crack! His shot took the Marine in the back, knocking him forward into Rose.
Caleb!
Cried his gunner as 2 other Marines scrambled into the weapon platform. The gunner exchanged blows with the male Marine, while a female swung at Caleb. Purely by instinct, Caleb used his pistol to deflect a blow that would have parted his head from his shoulders. But the Marine's stroke knocked the pistol out of Caleb's grasp. She snarled and stabbed Caleb in the gut. Caleb started. The thrust hurt, but no more than being punched.
Why was there no blood? The silver!
That morning, Caleb had tucked a thick leather pouch holding 10 silver claws into his waistcoat pocket. The Marine roared at the sky with frustrated bloodlust. She raised her cutlass to cleave the unarmed Caleb in 2. Crack! The Marine's head shattered from the impact of Rose's large-bore musket ball, splattering blood on the face of the other Marine. Caleb's gunner took advantage of the distraction, stabbing the remaining Marine in the gut. The Marine gasped and toppled backward off the platform, but not before sinking his claws into the gunner's forearm and dragging him into the water. The rising noise of the frigate's engine drew Caleb's attention to the approaching Fangstorm. He called to Rose.
Time to leave!
She nodded and scrambled with Caleb to the towed steam ski. They boarded and drove to the starboard side of the steamship. Caleb waved frantically to get the bridge crew's attention. They shook their heads. Caleb's throat tightened.
They will not leave their station. They mean to deliver their cargo or die trying.
Caleb saluted the crew's courage as Rose drove them toward Bengalton, accompanied by the other steam ski, its archer bleeding from a shoulder wound. The captain and first mate of the Fangstorm observed through binoculars the close-quarters combat atop the steamship.
Signal the boarder to pursue the steam skis,
the first mate ordered.
Belay that!
Huffed the captain.
Thrice now has that cat in a waistcoat demonstrated the heart of a Wolfen. Order the boarder to recover the rammer vehicle while we take the steamship. Aye, aye.
The gates of Bengalton swung open for the 2 steam skis. The 4 crew members received a somber welcome in the absence of the steamship. The wounded archer received medical attention, but the mayor stomped off grim-faced. Caleb spotted Cordelia in the crowd and rushed to her. She frowned.
I'm pleased to see you alive, but less so that you arrived without the cargo. It would seem this day offers reward to neither of us.
She turned and walked away. Caleb stood open-mouthed.
Don't you want to hear my news?
No. So be it. Farewell, Cordelia. He returned to Rose and the steam ski crew.
You goners fought of the Marines,
said the archer, his face wide with wonder and his arm now in a sling.
Incredible.
Caleb smiled, finding comfort in the company of brave comrades who appreciated him.
Should we tell them now?
Rose's eyes twinkled. Let's not. I want to see the look on their faces. Half an hour later, the Bengalton steamship loaded with firestone arrived unescorted from Angoraville. Amid the triumphant cheering, the mayor returned to the main courtyard.
How is this possible? Didn't the Wolfen capture the steamship?
Caleb smiled. Well, my lord, I suggested that an Angoraville ship serve as an empty decoy convoy. The Wolfen captured no cargo. The mayor mewed with delight and summoned the city treasurer. His leather pouch now bulging with 30 silver claws, Caleb turned to Rose.
I'm so hungry I could wolf down dinner. Would you do me the honor of joining me?
Rose curtsied. I'd love to, she purred. Thus it was that Caleb the Courageous collected 2 rewards that day. And as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome stories.